the role of a government is not independent of society.
In doing one thing, you will do everything if only you know that one thing. What happens half of the time is that we don't know that one thing that we need to be doing, so we ended up just gallivanting around doing, and all of those things doesn't contribute.
So that's a key role that education plays in socializing people onto a common ground.
Thinking of what do you think are important for any person who wants to use education as a tool for social change? Dr. Manu, thank you very much for taking the time to share this space with us this evening, actually. And thank you for your time. I know that you flew in this morning from the UK, so we grabbed the first dose of his energy this evening. So it's really a lot of, it's probably still jet lag, but thank you again for showing up. So
thank you for having me.
Dr. Manu is a professor. Maybe I should give you a moment to introduce yourself to our audience, to tell what you do and your work.
Thank you very much, everyone, for having me tonight. I am a lecturer in international relations, and I do my research mostly in security, what we call security studies. So I always introduce myself as someone who studies the security of states. Because when we say security, it means quite a lot of things. But thinking about how states survive over a very long period of time is the kind of stuff that I focus my research on.
If we think about social impact, Dr. Manu, I know that most of the time we kind of like think about it more like, how the way the society benefit from the work that we do, or from the intervention that is happening in society, and the way, there's always a question between, we think about the state, we think about society, the role of the state, the role of the citizens, the role of leaders, the role of different stakeholders. So it's a very complex thing, and people just think that it's easy. Government is not doing this, it's not doing that. It's just very simple, but it's very complicated. Can you just, just the concept of social impact as social entrepreneurs, because most of us here are also part of the non-profit learning series, the academy that we just finished, and then I think the big part of that also suggests to us that we're all in the social impact space. So when we think about social impact as a concept, can you please think about from the theoretical angle of it, how all these stakeholders and these things connect together, and how?
Yes. So you have to think that we are first of all humans. Humans, in my view, are social animals. So think about it this way: if, say, a goat gives birth. Who has ever seen a goat in a farm? A goat gives birth. How long does it take for the goat to start walking, running around? Almost immediately, right? If you give birth and then you just drop your child on the floor, what do you think will happen to that child? Right? So you can't have humans without other humans. We are, all of us, a product of 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And not only your parents. Whoever you are today is not only about your parents or even your family members. They've been total strangers or just people in the village that have contributed to you being wherever you are. So the first thing about social impact is that we are social animals by nature. So we have to work in groups, whether we like it or not, and we are more successful in groups, and we are more successful when we know what we want to achieve through group effort. So the role of the government in society is that the government is still part of society. It's just that we have given certain roles or certain responsibility to the government, that this is better done by the government, not the father or not the mother or not the individual. But the government has to be embedded in doing the things that we want to do. We just believe that in this particular case, a government elected by the people or whatever you use to justify the presence of the government is in charge of something that we could not do ourselves. And let me give you another example. The reason why you need a government, think about when you sleep. Can you go to bed and sleep at the same time, be a night watch? So if you're worried about armed robbers, can you stand in front of your house and guard your house, and be sleeping at the same time? You can't do that, right? So there are certain things that we have to delegate to other people. So when you are sleeping, there must be someone awake. And when that person is sleeping, you are awake. Right? So things like security, we delegate to something else, just so that we can be busy doing the things that we need to be doing while someone is dealing with that. So what I'm trying to say is that the role of a government is not independent of society. We've delegated certain things to the government, like the police and the army, because it's necessary to do so, because we cannot do it as individuals. It's one of those things that you can only do as a group. And you need to be able to trust a third party to do that. So what I'm trying to say is that there is society that is natural, and there is government on the other side that is a product of our human nature. Because if we were able to sleep and also guard our houses or our property, then we will do that, right? So government is a product of who we are as individuals. But when you delegate power to somebody or something else, those people are capable, because you're sleeping, right? When you're sleeping and you expect the government to be guarding your house, the government can steal your property, right? They can come and do something to you because you're sleeping. So we need to be able to hold that thing which we've given them the power to look after us accountable. That's where organizations like yourself begin to say, yes, we need this security from the government, but that government must provide this security according to a certain standard. They're not just going to give us anything and we accept it. In that case, we need to say, here's what we expect from our government, and here's what we are going to hold them accountable. So CSOs like you, it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's that you're doing education or you're doing security, part of your role is educating people to have certain expectations and be able to hold certain organizations and certain people accountable, right? I know I'm talking too much, but I'm trying to draw a link between societies, NGOs or CSOs and the government and everything else we are doing. And one key thing about life is that we have experience. So if when you were born, if you're trying to climb on this thing and you fall, or you try to touch a candle and it burns you, you learn that a candle is a dangerous thing, it can burn you. Or you're trying to climb on this step, you fall, you learn that the step can be dangerous. Certain things you don't want to have experience. Right? So I don't want to jump off this roof, fall, break my knee before I know that if you fall from a roof, you will break your knee. So we educate, is that we transmit information to other people even when we don't have experience of that event. so we can learn from the experiences of others. That's why education becomes very important, is that we all don't have to experience everything, but we can theorize. When I say to you that if you jump off this roof, you fall and you break your leg, that's a theory. I've never fallen off the roof and break my leg. I don't know that. I've probably never ever seen anybody falling off the roof. It's a theory, but the theory is there to codify information and pass it to other people who will then avoid falling and breaking their legs.
Excellent, excellent. You know, the thing, when someone teaches them for a day job and then that's all they do, you cannot boy. So welcome to a wonderful evening together. I mean, because the whole point is that you can look at the way information is passed across, and then it's layered into different way, and there's no way you won't understand it, because that's what it does every single time. So I think, but we really, because the reason why I started with that question is that we're social entrepreneurs, we are social impact makers, we are social innovators. We want to make changes. We are trying, but the truth is that to do that, if we do not understand the context of how society is organized, which is what is talking about the role of the state, and then the function of the state, the limit of the state, and then us as individuals, and then collectively as an organized institution or as an organization or group of organizations trying to hold government accountable or organize ourselves to provide some services or to do certain things to make sure that government can function better. So my question to you again, Dr. Manu, is what's the role of education? You're already kind of excited to talk about that. Like, how do you think education, or what do you think is the role of education as a catalyst for keeping society safe? And by this safety, because by attaining peace, because we know that everything else we want to do, we want to reproduce, or we want to make change happen, hold government accountable, they all function of an assumption that the state is is peaceful. So how can education, and if you have any examples of tools or resources or initiatives that we can just brainstorm around and think around, and that would be good as well.
Very important question. I think education is really important. Like I said, we live in society, and we, at the same time, we're individuals. We come from different backgrounds. We have different views, different attitudes. But for us to live in society, we need certain common agreements or common standards. It's not that we all have to agree on everything, but we all have to say, on this particular thing, this is how we expect everybody to behave. Right? It's not that you have to agree with it or disagree. It's just saying that on average, this is how we want to behave. This is how we want to solve this problem. This is how we want to get married. This is how we want a divorce to look like. This is how we want a child to be brought up. Because we are going to have different opinions about common things, we therefore need a common position where we all agree that this is our position. And once we have that position, the only way to get it into the heads of everybody in that society is through education. So we're going to say, this is what we agree in our society to be good. Doesn't matter what it is, but we're just saying that in our culture, in our village, in our community, this is what we accept that good is. Therefore, we have to educate everybody to understand what we mean by good. So that's a key role that education plays in socializing people onto a common ground, regardless of different perspectives. Because as humans, we're always going to have a difference in perspective. Not all of us can agree on everything at all times. Therefore, we want to say, here is the baseline which all of us are going to stand. And that's where education plays a good role. But society depends on a lot of things. So there's also economics, right? We need to eat, for example. When we are sick, we need medicine, right? So you need skills to produce, process, cook, and serve food. Just giving a basic example. Right? And there's a lot of things that you eat and you enjoy, but if it's not cooked properly, you eat it, you're going to die. So there's a skill in understanding which plant is edible, how long you should cook it before eating it or not. That is a skill. That's a practical skill. Accommodation, for example, if all of us just sleep on the streets and there's rain and everything, we could easily get sick and die. So we need skills to construct buildings and all of that kind of stuff. Again, for us to live securely and peacefully, we need skills. That's another way of, another reason why education is important, because we train people to gain these skills. And also, you can make a livelihood in the age of capitalism. You can actually make money from your skills. If you're a good builder, you can build a lot of houses, make a lot of money out of that. So that's another way, apart from transmitting values, societal values, developing the kind of skills that you need in the kind of society that you live in is also very important.
I think at the very foundation of socialization, or at the very foundation of human what would I think it's for you to communicate, for you to function, for you to enjoy life and living. I think that's why that's one of the things that we will do. It's only after you survive all of that we now start to think about it, that okay, what other ways can we how can we raise the bar? What other things can we do? And then you're thinking about vocation, but before that, you first what? That's why almost every society, you spend the first 20 years of 18, 20 years of your life just what? Going to school. You are not expected to have any income, you're not expected to do anything, your only responsibility, and parents are actually penalized if they did not allow the children go to school, because the next 40 years or 50 years that you're going to be functioning in that society is built upon the success that the successful education that you have had. So, Dr. Manu, I'm just thinking, because I'm trying to bring this through the lens of majority of people that are in the audience, and then they are change makers, and they on a daily basis, or the interest is about creating interventions, looking at the environment and trying to curate projects or ideas that they can use to make communities better or make society function better in different ways. Some of them are working in education, some are working in healthcare, some are working in sports. There's we have a very diverse group of people, and some people are still probably going to do something totally different from what they are currently doing now. And I'm thinking that what do you think are important for any person who wants to use education as a tool for social change? Independent, we know that of course we already do have to go to school as part of socialization process, but beyond that, as an individual in a part of our work, maybe for those, I don't know, there are different ways, but what do you think are important in designing a program, a project that is intended to use education as a method or as a tool, as a strategy to solve a particular issue in society?
Again, very important question, and also slightly more difficult. So my view on this, and this is my view, is that education is very complex and very difficult. So formal education is very important, because you hope that those who have designed the formal education system know what they're doing. So that's a very important part. We shouldn't do anything that will negatively impact the formal education system. But education is not limited to school. there's a lot that we individuals and organizations can do to foster the values and the skills, right? It's not only about values, the knowledge, the values, and the skills that are taught in school. In terms of interventions, is that my advice is that understand the local context in which you're operating. I study a bit of strategy, so I usually say that context is the most important thing. We live in a very connected world, and some people say that we live in a globalized world, but I'm not very sure if we do. Right? Some people say every politics is local.
Mm-hmm.
You heard that view, right? So really think about your circumstances. Don't assume that because something is happening in the United States, then it must happen in Nigeria, right? Nigeria is not the United States. And the United States is not Nigeria. So you need to really understand who you are, where you come from, and what is the values of your people. I'm not saying that change is not important. Change is very important, but change is always built on something that already exists. But when it's too radical, it's highly unlikely to be successful. It's not that radical change is not successful, it can be successful. Right? But when it's too radical, the probability that it will not be successful is high. Right? It doesn't mean that it's impossible, just that the probability that it will not be successful is high. So my view is that don't be in a haste, because what I see is a lot of people in a haste trying to, win very quickly. Settle down, think about whatever you want to do very carefully. Think about not only yourself, but the society in which you live in, and say, even if you need to change something, how do you go about changing it in the best way? It's not just because something needs to be changed, then that you start shouting about change, right? It's not obvious to all of us. The change might be really obvious to you, but it's not obvious to everybody. So you should have the patience of carrying people with you, right? You might be dead certain that this is exactly what all of us need to be doing, but if you try to impose it on people, they would say, why should I listen to you? But if you try to educate people, again, we go back to education, on why something is important, then you carry them along.
Absolutely, I do agree with you. And I think that we actually have a book in the library that says, always start with a why. A guy wrote a book, and that was the start of the book. I never read it, but I know that we did have it somewhere. And I think that it's really helpful because in asking why, everything else follows through. You're doing context, you're doing analysis, you're thinking about, it's because what you think you might probably be doing, maybe somebody else has done. It's like when you construct a research, you have a question, if you don't have a research question here, there's no inquiry to be made because there's no way to guide yourself into anything at all. And I think that, and when you're asking why, you are positioning yourself. And I think one of the very beautiful things that I wanted to add as well is like, when you're trying to do an intervention, I always like the idea that when you understand the why, you can't solve everything at a time. Start with a what. Your what should be something small, like a proof of concept. What can I do? It's very, very easy to. I think I've had some interaction with some of you, and this is something that is popular. The people that want to do social impact, they felt like, I really have this passion for something. I really like education. I want to solve this problem, and for 10 years, I want to. Meanwhile, there are a lot of things that you can do right now, today, that doesn't cost you money. That doesn't cost you. It just costs you what? Motivation, time, like the commitment to say that I want to begin to do this. And when you begin to do something small, it's just what happens with life. You begin to feel empowered, motivated, involved, to feel like there's a need for this, and then when I can do this, I should also be able to trust that I can also do that. And You begin to have that motivation to do that. Then you have your what? Proof of concept that is a product of your work. And then, but it's very easy to just make assumptions and think that, oh, everything is going to, I don't think anything that is worthwhile is built overnight. It takes time. And that is why the why is important. If you don't do the why first, you will never understand the strategy that's going to get you to the outcome. What happens usually is what? You become frustrated. Has anyone tried to assemble a new device that they acquire? You got a new thing and you didn't read the manual and then you mess it all up because you just assume that, oh, I've done it before. Okay, it's okay. And then you realize that, wait a minute, I'm so dumb. Like, I should have at least just read the manual, understand how it was, because somebody made it and they've already given me instruction, but because I just don't want to ask the question. I feel like I know too much, or and then what? It leads to, if you don't know your why, whatever you're doing, what institutional impact you're pursuing, if you don't have your why, you will be frustrated, because frustration will come from trying to go a different route, trying to know, and that's, I don't know why you use the word why, you said why, because I'm not trying to do motivational speaking, but I think that even in our personal life, understanding why, which is a function of purpose. Why am I living? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want this career? Or why am I doing this, everything I want to do? Because if you can answer why, you're halfway there. Because you know for sure that this is what I want to do. And then if that question is it's sufficiently answered, you already have a strategy. That answer is what is your strategy to getting a result. So thank you very much again, Dr. Manu, for
add something, just one thing, that there's a saying that has inspired me for a very long time, is that you cannot do everything. I know there will be motivation. You said motivational speaker. That's why this came to mind, is that you hear or you go on YouTube, you see all these people, they say everything is possible, you can do everything. True, to a certain extent, right? You can't do everything, but you can do one thing today. Like Ola was saying, there's one thing that you can do today that you don't need anybody. You don't need money. You don't need someone to give you money. You don't need someone to give you permission. There's one thing that you can do today. If you think very carefully, and you can do another thing tomorrow. And then the next, you can do another thing and another thing. And over time, when you look back, you see that you've actually done everything.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't do everything if you start on your day one on your NGO and you're going to change Nigeria, you're going to change Africa, you're going to change the world, you most likely will not change anything. But you can do one thing and another and another and another, and if you are lucky to live long, by the time you look back, you see that you've done quite a lot. And it's just by doing that easy thing every day.
Yeah, that also, I remember there's another book that's called The One Thing. No, you sure. We also have, we actually have, pardon?
You read a lot of books.
Again, I mean, the power of focus, because the guy, the entire argument of this guy in the book is about 300 pages. But what he's saying is that it's just what Dr. Manu just summarized. In doing one thing, you will do everything, if only you know that one thing. What happens half of the time is that we don't know that one thing that we need to be doing, so we ended up just gallivanting around doing, and all of those things doesn't contribute. Like I'm always in a battle with my staff, and I'm like, today you've given me 8 hours of work, but the truth is that maybe you only gave me 20 hours of time, of productive time. Yes, you have time here, you've resumed at 8, you're leaving at 5 or at 6. But the truth is that the only thing that is useful, that contributes to bottom line today, is an effort of 20 minutes. That means that you could have earned your pay if you could know what that 20 minutes is, and then you could have done that, and everything else is what? Distraction and a waste of time, and you can just shut it away. And there's actually an economic principle for that, the 80-20 principle, where if anybody knows that. You said 20% of your time will give you 80% of your what? of your outcomes, of your input, of what you put in. But the only thing is, how do you know the 20%? That's where the work is. You have to be able to, and that's what comes back to the same thing around one thing. What is the most important thing today? What is the most important thing at this time in this project? Is it writing a proposal or just meeting one person that will just give me money to do it, or registering my company, or registering my NGO, or writing grant, or getting to training, or getting a job? What's the one thing? Because when you know one thing, you automatically just find a pathway to everything, because you are able to wither away the things that are not necessary, and then you can just go across the pace, and then you begin to develop a pathway to that. So thanks again, Dr. Manu. I think those insights are just coming up right on time. Again, another round of applause for Dr. Manu for sharing.